Hello and welcome to the Voiro podcast, season 4, episode 8. 8. How are you, Kavita?
Good. How are you after your break? You went to Goa?
Yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. Our favorite little beach town, except I didn't go to the beach because it was raining so hard. And we had a villa all to ourselves and I basically vegged out.
You went to the new airport.
I did.
And?
I did. It's really nice, especially compared to that old airport in
Did you
in
take
Panjim.
pictures outside that dude where, there's this huge mural of a huge statue of apparently how to have fun in Goa.
Yeah. There's that. There's Mario, Miranda, cartoons like all over the airport. It's actually a very happy airport. We landed and right by the luggage carousel was a live band.
Wow.
Yeah, just playing music. And
I
was
love
nice. It was nice. It is a nice airport and it's actually much closer to North Goa if that's where you're staying.
Yeah. There was a big land rush a couple of years ago because this airport was rumored to come up. And so now whoever's bought land out there are kind of cashing it in.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's also very picturesque when you land. It's a forest. It's all green. Also, I still don't know if it's Mapo or Mopa, but I kept getting it wrong.
Mopa.
Yeah, I kept saying Mapo.
Mapo?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Anyway.
But it was nice.
Good. Nice holidays. Always require holidays. And my feed right now on Instagram is full of monsoon getaways. And, everybody's sipping chai, sitting by some crackling fire, looking at leaves getting wet outside, like a rain and whatever else.
Yes.
So you're living the influencer's dream, man.
It was nice. There was it was a villa with a nice big pool. And so every now and then somebody from our group would just descend
into the
pool. There was a frame TV in every room.
Oh.
In every room where the previous guest's Netflix account was still logged in.
Oh no!
And we realized that they have excellent taste, whoever this person is.
I'm sure you knew their names because if you had their Netflix account.
Yeah, no, I didn't check their names, but
man, it should be part of the guest rules for Airbnb. log out of your Netflix account.
We did log out on their behalf though. But it was nice. Speaking of which, what are you watching this week?
I've started watching Schmigadoon on Apple TV. It's called
Schmigadoon.
Schmigadoon. It's an American musical comedy. It's produced by Lon Michaels.
Nice.
From Saturday Night Live. It's got Cecily Strong in it. It's nice. It's about this backpacking couple who go backpacking to rejuvenate their relationship, and then they suddenly find themselves in 1940s town. And it's funny. It's singing and dancing. It's almost like SNL kind of expanded itself into this show.
So you seem to be on the Apple Plus train.
Yeah, but I'm also watching The Consultant on Prime.
Okay.
It's also a nice one. It's again bizarre. Both shows are a little bizarre. They're like on the fringe of like, what's happening here? The Consultant is about, it's a thriller. It's about this random guy who walks into this gaming company and just takes over. And this gaming company is owned by this Korean. And this guy is Russian. And this kind of stuff that starts to happen. And nobody knows how he took over and what happened. And the owner of that company suddenly dies. And so that's why he comes in. So it's all. I'm still kind of.
You've given me a lot of bizarre recommendations over the years like this. It just make me sit back in my seat.
Yeah.
I remember watching the Tetris movie that you recommended. After that, I bought a game. Speaking of Russian game developers, after that, I bought a Game Boy.
And you started to swipe on it.
Yeah, every day. Yeah, start swiping on it. But it also has a Chinese mode on it. But I've been playing some Tetris.
That's nice. What are you watching?
So given that I was on a break, I actually did not binge watch. I didn't start any new series. And I went back to The Office, Friends, Frasier, Big Bang Theory. I just watched stray episodes.
Nice.
Between unlimited card games and swimming time, that's what we watched.
Nice. I'm telling you, Netflix is training us all. That Tudum is like my signal to just de-stress. Very Pavlovian, like I keep saying. And all these shows that we watch are to reduce our anxiety for what to watch, because you know what's happening.
Yeah.
But Netflix, on the other hand, has been doing well on their business side, I must say. I was reading that the password sharing crackdown finally reached US shores, and everybody was wondering how it will play out. But predictably, or I never thought they'll have a drop off, but everybody got their own accounts and their number of subscribers increased. And
Even back when they announced that they were gonna do this, I felt like it got a lot more bad press than it deserved.
yeah,
Because the whole world put their hands up and said, "Oh my God, how can you do this?" Blah 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 blah. And my head, I'm like, well, it's they have every right to prevent password sharing because they are a business after all, and they do have multiple profiles. So if you can't work, if you can't have nice friends or family who let you mooch off their profile, you got to pay.
yeah,
Either you make friends in life or
correct.
you make money
True.
and pay that money. I think one of the two. I was at a wedding 2 weeks ago where I was getting a drink at the bar and I heard a very bizarre conversation behind me. The two gentlemen behind me. The guy A introduced himself to B and he said, "Oh, I'm so and so, blah blah." And this guy was like, "Okay." And this guy says, "Oh, you know me." And the other guy was still weirded out. And then he said, "We have profiles in the same Netflix account."
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And that's how they met for the first time. The groom has the parent account, and these are two friends who mooch off of that account.
Oh my
But they've
God.
never met in person. And then they had a drink together.
Excellent.
Yeah, and they got to know
But
each
at least
other.
they have their own profiles. But then are they like stalking each other's profiles to see what they're watching?
Well, you can.
I don't do that. I don't do that.
I
even
don't
by-
do it.
Yeah.
I don't do it. I, for the longest time, did not have my own profile because I used my wife's profile, who uses her sister's account,
Oh.
and I freeloaded off both them. But very recently, I got my own. Now I have my own. But I don't even think I have the time to go and look at somebody else's profile.
Yeah. And the reason why I like my own profile is that I know where I left off with certain shows. The algorithm at least gives me the stuff that I want. I can add to my list and wait for stuff
Yeah.
to come in. Because watching shows and watching television and watching content for me is a huge part of life.
Of
And I don't
course.
want anybody to mess with it. I don't want to be like looking for stuff or having stuff like thrown at me where I have like cartoons for my children or
Yeah.
some lovesick thing from my teenager or whatever else. I just want like my stuff.
But I really like as it is with me, like, content's a huge part of my household. But I realized that getting a new Netflix account now is a giant pain in the butt. Not getting the account itself, but I walked into a blank account and I said, I'm going to curate this algorithm. I'm going to tell it everything about myself. I did it for all of 5 minutes. I went around liking movies. I'm like, forget it. Is there some first party data set I can just like give them?
Just tell me how I'm supposed to be. Give me a profile. Give me an archetype.
Just
or
scan my face and you should know every movie I watched in the past. Like that, I will
oh my
figure out.
goodness.
But I basically seeded like 5 movies and I have now confused it. But hopefully with...
Do you ever think that you will get onto a AWOD supported Netflix?
No.
Would you ever?
No. As much as we work in the ad tech industry, love monetization, believe in ads, every single service I use is a paid for ad free account.
I'm thinking Gen Z might do it because if I don't want to spend that much money on it. I want to also have my own space. I don't want my parents to know what I'm watching. I don't want to be part of this family. I mean, I know that everybody's trying to get out of this family situation. I'm in this space where my teenager does not want to be part of this family.
She's in my Spotify
yeah, she's
account.
in Anand's Spotify account. So I don't even know what kind of music she listens to. Not like I'm not even like policing. I'm just like watching her.
Yeah. I'll tell you
try
why.
to assert
I have found a
independence.
lot of these ads to be very jarring, which is what I was excited to read about in there was an article that said Netflix will introduce targeted ads, and it was a very misleading headline. Because in my head I was like, yes, sure, that's what you should be doing.
Should be doing anyway.
But then they talked about how ads would be tailored to the genre and would be episodic.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, this is interesting. If Netflix's ad-supported tier includes a softer ad experience, I wouldn't mind it. I love native ads. I love ads that are not intrusive. I love ads themselves.
Yep.
The ability to craft a marketing message. Ads are really funny sometimes.
Yep.
But if I'm listening to very calming, soothing piano music and someone yells in my face about a refrigerator or a car or something, I get very upset.
Spotify actually got that down pretty well.
They did. Because
From an ad-supported
I remember
version.
Arjun Kuladi at AdTech last year was talking about how, as an advertiser, you are entering a very
Intimate space.
You're in a customer's ear, literally. And so you must respect the context in which you enter.
The genre that you're watching.
You can't
listening to.
interstitial your way into a...
into a
Yeah.
listening space. But
Breakfit is still messaging me.
I wanted to ask you, do they message you in Goa?
They message me everywhere.
Oh my God. Can't you
Everywhere.
block them
I have.
on WhatsApp?
I have.
But they still are.
So I'll get a text from AD Wakefit and I'll block them, and next time I'll get one from like AF Wakefit. Still
Why
here.
just buy something from them? Just
I
buy
have.
a pillow.
That's why all this started.
Just buy another pillow. Just buy a pillow and just tell
Then they'll
them
think
that-
I'm more interested.
That's true. Okay, so Netflix's targeted advertising is not really only about age, gender, and location. It's more about the content that you're watching and making it as seamless an experience for this person who's watching you, because they're okay to take this break because they're not paying for it. And also because that content is expensive to make.
Yeah.
So I can't really give you the same ad experience as every other made for advertising site that there is on the internet. And so I need to make sure that this content that is going to be in an ad pod is worthy of occupying the same space, same content rail as the content that I
Adjacent
produce.
to high quality.
Correct.
Yeah.
So high quality advertising, which I think is the only way advertising doesn't lose the lead that it has in its growth rate. So we were reading another article about AVOD and SVOD and about how by 2028, this entire industry for OTT, both subscriptions and AVOD, is going to be 235 billion.
Yes. And AVOD is smaller than SVOD today, but is projected to grow twice as fast.
Yeah, but it's still going to be smaller from a pie, right? It's going to be like 91 billion or something by the time.
91 and 144.
Yeah.
AVOD and SVOD split. But it shows
So 91 billion and 144 billion.
94 bucks, 91 bucks.
91 bucks.
And 144 bucks, yes.
From AVOD and SVOD split.
Yes.
Yeah, we had one of our investors who came in and he reduced millions into a buck. And so we were very confused because we were talking about raising money or valuations and it was in millions. And he said, oh, that's like what, $1, $2? And then we were like, what's a buck? And then he's like, millions.
I told him we should put down $3.
Yeah.
And we were looking
The
at
four
the room saying,
founders
"Did I hear it wrong?"
looking at each other saying, what is he saying? And then he kind of looked at our confused faces and he's an ex-banker and he said, this year, to make it easier, we just call every million is a buck. We're like, wow, money is really cheap.
But in order to actually fuel this growth and overtake SVOD at some point, which I think it most definitely can, getting this stuff right is going to be critical. Getting the experience right. I like this update from Netflix because they're saying, it seems the Netflix is considering adopting an episodic approach to advertising. Instead of bombarding viewers with repetitive ads, campaigns could be divided into multiple episodes.
Yes, it will give birth to a new type of advertising agency, a new type of marketing arm, marketing output. It will give rise to an outlet for influencers who are now becoming actors and models, and they're gracing the Met Gala carpets, and we see them at Cannes and all the various, fashion shows in Paris. And they're coming from places in India and obscure places around the world. They were they were not groomed by the industry. They groomed themselves and they got themselves a platform, and now they're on a common platform where it is globally accepted. It's almost like, they're coming of age. They're passing through, certain rights to make themselves an actual superstar, an actual star. So these guys soon will have to find different outlets to be able to influence on platforms that are not just social media, and therefore platforms like Netflix, even Prime. Prime could also adopt this in the future, because if I make something episodically for Netflix, why would I not want to do it for Prime?
Of course.
And so on and so forth. So every other OTT platform might do it. And also fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
When I first read this update, I was wondering what episodic means in the context of ads, right? But it seems to make sense. They keep track of what you have watched, where you're picking up. And I wonder if the ads themselves, the creatives themselves, can also be episodic, in the sense they know what you have seen before, and they know the fact that you've actually seen it or interacted with it, and maybe they move you on to the next creative in sequence. I remember when Cred's campaign came out last year, I found it really funny, even though I still did not understand what they did at the time. I still don't, in some regards. But I remember it was this juxtaposition of a personality with a situation that you would never find them in. And the whole point was to tease the confusing aspect of their own product, which it did. But I remember just looking forward to who the next person was. And they had Rahul Dravid, and they had Kumar Sanu, and they had all sorts of interesting people.
Bappi Lahiri also was there.
Yes.
Yes.
So we do like ads. I think we all do like our ads, but they just need to blend into the experience.
Yeah. And it's about time because we can differentiate our content from our ads, but we still want to be entertained, and the experience for that platform has to be maintained. It's a good move. It's a great move, and it's a move that will probably, like we said, will be able to spawn different industries and grow other industries as well instead of killing them off. While everybody is heralding the arrival of AI in advertising, the menial stuff can be done by AI. Go ahead, make my banners, from 300 to 50 to 300 to 600 and up and down wherever you want to. Create banners for me on my e-commerce platform telling me how much I have off and what I can get. But from an experiential perspective, I still think human beings are required. We need to push
I
the
really
frontiers of
enjoyed
creativity.
the blog, the Substack post you had shared on our WhatsApp group by Rishad Tobaccowala
Oh, yes.
about how to deal with the wave and something about the force or flowing with the flood, but effective or with what basically what he said was embrace, adapt, and I think collaborate, but effectively understand where the wave is going and ride it.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
Gotta ride it.
Yeah, there's no point in sitting back and saying, oh my God, wringing our hands saying, oh my God, AI is going to take over.
Yeah,
Let it
yeah.
take over all the shit that we have and let's form new frontiers.
Speaking of, oh my God,
Yes.
what a great segue into our next topic,
Which is
threads.
Oh my God. This morning, I got an update. I have a very active Signal group with a bunch of my friends where somebody asked me, somebody says, so who's signing up on Threads? And at the same time, when I, of course, opened up my Instagram because it's my daily routine to get my brain functioning.
Prime it.
Yeah, just terrible, but well, I can't get out of that habit, and I love it. I saw an update saying somebody from my followers, from somebody from who I follow, has posted on Threads, and we'd like to see. And so then I clicked on it, and then it took me to a completely different app, and I was like, oh my God, I've downloaded another app. And then I said, okay, fine, it's probably something from Instagram. Maybe it will go and magically put itself inside Instagram, but it wasn't so. It's a new app completely. But what caught my eye, and that's something that, I never do. I never really read terms and conditions. I just blindly accept. I'm like, just take it, take all my data, just take it and just give me entertainment in return.
Accept.
Just accept every single cookie. You want it, take it, right? Terrible example. People are listening. Please make sure your privacy is managed and maintained. I do not recommend that you accept all terms and conditions. But this time around, for how Threads work, there were 3 things that caught my eye. The first one, it says it's powered by Instagram. So it says Threads is a part of the Instagram platform and that they will use your Threads and Instagram information to personalize ads and other experiences across Threads and Instagram. Now, keep this statement aside in your mind for a second because I went down a rabbit hole and understood why they're saying this. The second is that the second byline is, wait for it, the Fediverse. All right. And I was like, maybe I'm reading diverse wrong. But then I read it again and it said the Fediverse.
When you said it this morning in the office, I thought you were talking about a drink.
You did?
Yeah.
Maybe I can make a drink. How will a drink, like what will the base be for a Fediverse?
Vodka.
Vodka.
Yeah.
What would a base be for Fediverse, you think? Contro? Rum.
Rum.
Not bad, okay. Do you drink, Gautam? You're underage?
Great.
Okay. We will not ask you this question. All right. So the Fediverse. Future versions of Threads will work with the Fediverse, a new type of social media network that allows people to follow and interact with each other on different platforms like Mastodon. I'm like, oh my God, Mastodon has come back into our lives. I thought it had gone away. So then when Santosh walked into the office, I said, hey, what is this Fediverse and what is Mastodon? And he tried to explain it to me. And he said, it's this decentralized social media network where you have to choose your own servers and literally create a clique for yourself. And so then I went to Mastodon, of course, and I've created my own account on Mastodon to understand what is this Mastodon, right? Because it came to power when Twitter was
when Elon was doing his thing.
When Twitter was on shaky ground, which is still right now. And by the way, I still haven't opened Threads as yet. I am still on terms and conditions on point 2. So anyway, Mastodon is basically a decentralized microblogging social media site where you get to choose who you allow into your home. And Lena and me were talking about it a little later on. And in the pandemic, you basically clicked up with people who are bubbling with you, right? and you had your own little bubble in which you had certain types of people you let in. You would only like hang out with them. You only party with them. You really didn't. You would go on holidays with them, etc. during those 2.5 years. And that's pretty much what this is. It's you just have a clique of people who you want to let in, and then you can kick them out or unfollow them if they break the rules. And one of the fundamental things, and I read this blog by Eugene Rochko, who's the CEO of Mastodon, and he basically blogging about what to know about threads, because Mastodon is clearly called out in their terms and conditions. And here is where the first terms and condition, where they say that we will curate your experience using what you do on Instagram to show you ads, actually makes sense, because in this microblogging, your own server, decentralized version of social networking, you don't have ads unless you really allow it. You have to actively allow ads.
Okay.
So with threads, you are still using a decentralized universe, but you're actively accepting that you're going to allow ads on this server. You're joining Instagram's Web3 microblogging decentralized platform that allows ads.
Okay.
Which is why everybody is saying, is this better for Instagram because it can allow them more ads? And now it makes sense why it's a separate app. Because yes, okay, users are different. It's a text-based platform. It feels like Twitter, but it's a little different. But wherever, like you look at links, like there were TikTok video captures that were placed on Reels that I would watch. But here, I have TikTok links, and I have to go to the TikTok link from this thread.
So you can't use it in India then?
No, I can't. I mean, the TikTok version of it. But otherwise, any other place, even if it's Twitter, and it's a link from Twitter that's embedded into this thread, I will go to Twitter. It's just a collection of people who are coming from different social media networks, and they're linking out, and you don't have to be tied into experience information only on this app. The other aspect is that you can actually import stuff from your users and followers from another application. Now, that is something that a Facebook currently doesn't allow. But if you remember, I mean, maybe this is where I'm aging myself. We moved from Orkut to Facebook.
I was there.
You were there? You could import all of your contacts, right? And so on and so forth, for MySpace to Orkut and all of that. But I don't think you can do this for Twitter to Threads yet.
Because they're not friends?
They are not on this decentralized Web3 aspect of it, and they don't subscribe to it. It's a closed network. And that is the difference between the social networks of today and the social networks of tomorrow. Web2 social networks are contained bubbles, spaces in which you've paid a cover charge and an entry, and you're going to be right here, and you cannot get drinks from the next neighboring bar. Whereas the Web3 aspect is, it's the courtyard of a huge place where you can go and get your drinks and food from different restaurants and different bars, and come and sit at different tables and have conversations with different people, and leave the conversation if you don't like it. So that's basically what's happening. And Instagram with Threads has set up a really long table, right, where they are also serving you free orders while you can get your drinks and your food from other restaurants around in the same courtyard. So, and you can join that table or leave that table. So it's interesting, it's complicated, but it's going to become a way of life for everybody.
That I get. I get. I'm still a little puzzled by this development in general, because I don't know why Instagram needed to do this.
Maybe it's like what you're going to watch soon.
Because it's there.
No, it's that cage fight. Maybe he wants to get something.
This is the cage fight.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the cage fight. Anil was telling us this morning that Mark Zuckerberg has to keep distance. The minute you associate his name with an app, nobody wants to use it. So there's so many facets to this, right? I think your experience is very interesting, because when you started off within the Instagram app and then were pointed to this and said, would you like to follow the same people?
Correct.
Right? Which is, I think, what Instagram is going for, which is to take advantage of the network effects they already have, which they may not be able to do in Europe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's not. It hasn't launched in EU.
Yeah, Europe will not allow them to share
Yeah.
data across apps, if I'm not mistaken. Facebook has traditionally succeeded largely at the companies that they have bought, not at the things that they have built. Their biggest successes are WhatsApp, Instagram, and Oculus, maybe third. Not the stuff that they've built ground up, they've shuttered many of them. So I don't know if that's the reason they want to keep this as a separate app, because they don't want it to dilute and kill Instagram. But I'm still wondering why. About a year ago, we started to notice that most social media platforms are moving in the direction of vertical, full screen, short form video. And Twitter already has that, and Instagram already has that. In fact, Twitter is moving away, in some sense, from text only to being able to support video. And everyone was up in arms, including us, because we love the text platform, but we didn't like it being commingled with short form video, but they did it anyway. But Instagram is already there as a large player, so I'm not entirely sure.
But it's like Twitter. If you look at the interface, there are a couple of displays and there are links and whatever else, but it's exactly like Twitter. There's from an experience perspective, it may be a little more spaced out and less number of, and your icons are at the bottom and looks similar to Instagram. The last part is the data platform, the data sharing. It says, by joining Threads, you agree to the meta terms and Threads supplemental terms and acknowledge you have read the meta privacy policy and Threads supplemental privacy policy. I have not.
Yes.
But I have accepted it.
Yeah, like
most consumers. But this is where I think the EU takes this very seriously. And I think even governing bodies in every country need to protect consumers. I'm not going to read this. And even if I do read it, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to say, I can just say, no, I don't want to. But if there is anything to say about regulation, then this is where regulation bodies and set up by the government need to come in and read these and at least ratify them, validate them, endorse them, and make sure that they at least have at the heart of it, make sure that their consumers are protected. But that's not going to happen for a while in India. But anyway, that's why I guess the EU is like dithering and saying, I don't know.
I'm still trying to get to the bottom of why, and I have just one theory. Because if you look at the way this app has evolved, I was reading Nikhil Pahwa from MediaNama, who was talking about Threads versus Twitter versus Blue Sky versus Mastodon earlier today. And he was whining about the fact that, the broadcasters are already there on Threads. The broadcasters are people who post the same stuff everywhere.
Yes,
anyway,
which is who I followed.
With no care for engagement, because they'll post the same content
everywhere
in every app. There was I think it was a leaked internal meeting at Meta, where their CTO basically said the world deserves a better Twitter. I'm paraphrasing. Either he said a better Twitter or he said a Twitter that's better run as a company. But he used the word Twitter in there. He didn't shy away from saying that's what we're going to try and kill. But I was trying to think about what the underlying problem with Twitter that they're trying to replace is what? According to their internal meeting notes, it's the fact that it's poorly run. I don't know if that's a reason to go out and build an entirely new app like this, right? The big problem in Twitter today is of course Elon and how he's run the place so far, but it's also everyone's complaint is curation. Curation, control over curation, being able to swap out algorithms, Blue Sky, and the kinds of controls you get with that. But Blue Sky is still invite only. It's not yet out in the open. My mind goes back to something that Adam Mosseri said a year ago at a TED Talk, where he talked about the shift in social media from Web 2 to Web 3. And he said, if we do it, nobody will trust us because it's us. He said, but forget the Orkut example, which is one. As an influencer, you want to be able to migrate your followers from platform to platform, which today you cannot do. You cannot say, I have 1 million followers on YouTube, and so the minute I launched an Instagram page, I will take those 1 million followers with me to Instagram. That interoperability does not exist.
And actually, those companies where you go and launch yourself on pay you enough money for you to be able to market to those guys that you are on another platform.
Yeah, exactly. They also pay you to be exclusive, which means they try and detract you from moving to multiple platforms, right? But interoperability of followers, especially when it's a very large number, does not exist today, which is the promise of Web 3. It's decentralized. You're not beholden to the aggregator. But Adam said they would try anyway, but whatever they built, nobody would trust them. I'm wondering if this is actually a side door to them building that interoperable layer, but pitching it as a Twitter competitor, maybe. Because it seems to me like, especially from the second point of the terms and conditions that you were reading out, the Fediverse, it seems to me that that's what they're going for.
Yeah. And the Fediverse, and where Mastodon is based on, it's based on this protocol called Activity Pub,
Okay.
which is the underlying the fabric that allows you to have this decentralized social graph and social network.
Why is it called a pub?
Because I think it's for publishers.
Oh.
Hey, man.
Call anything a pub and I think it's automatically like fun.
Yeah. But you know, one of the things that we have to question is this a kill or is this customer choice? Like, are you going to kill Twitter or are you going to give Twitter enough competition to pull up its socks? Because there is no competition for Twitter in the market. It's about time. And so the only way that you can actually kick somebody in their butt is to make sure that you give them competition. And maybe this is it.
Maybe it's a way to distract them.
Maybe. Distract them from what, though?
If Chris, there was a James Bond movie, I forget it, Chris Cornell sang the theme song. It's called You Know My Name. I think it was Casino Royale.
Okay.
Where the famous line, which I still love to this day, where he said, just when you think you won, you realize I've changed the game.
Ah, yes.
Right? So maybe they keep Twitter
Yep.
occupied in figuring out the Twitter versus Mastodon versus Threads versus Cool game, but actually are building that Web3 infrastructure for interoperability among
Because it's
social
coming.
networks.
It's coming. You might as well join it. It may not. I'm sure that you can't do it with your current setup, right? Because there are constraints of how you've built your platform. There are the realities of having a 10 or 15-year-old business that you built on the back of protocols that are 10 to 15 years old. Why are you laughing?
Suddenly I'm thinking, while you do all this, you keep the CEO occupied in training for a cage match.
Oh, yeah. Man, this is like tactics at a different level. Maybe it's going to be a movie someday.
That's what
You
it
think
is.
he's training?
He is. I mean, he's a man with a very giant ego.
I mean, I'd love to see those videos. If that's available, I'd pay to watch. Just the
I
training
think that's
videos.
what this is all about.
Keep them occupied.
Just dangle a shiny object in front of them and build something else.
So yeah, so here's heralding the new age of social networks.
I need to go save my handle on Threads. You don't just get your Instagram handle on Threads?
I think you do.
You do?
You do. I mean, if you just sign in with the same Instagram profile and then it becomes .threads.
Okay.
I went to Mastodon and saved my profile handle.
Yeah.
Not like it's going to be different. I just don't want to forget. I'm going to become old.
I consider you a bit of an influencer. You got
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
With my 200 followers that are family and friends.
Yeah.
Okay. So you read the ANA brief, the document that came out on programmatic and open web. What do you think about it?
It was interesting. Like you suggested last week, you said you need to clear out a couple of hours to.
You really do.
So that's what I did. So ANA is the Association of National Advertisers in the United States, and they've published many reports, research reports over the years. Earlier this year, I think there was an IDBA report that talked about the unknown delta and the fact that it was still a problem. And on the back of that, at Cannes, ANA released a report called the Programmatic Media Supply Chain Transparency Study. And so if I were to read this and say, is it transparent? No, it's not. So they're releasing the report in two tranches. The first one was released last week, and I think the second one goes a lot deeper. But effectively, it is a call to advertisers on what they need to be doing to grow the program. So the open web programmatic advertising market, as opposed to the walled garden programmatic advertising market, is $88 billion in size. And they believe that with these recommendations, there is room for at least 20 billion more right now, because they can drive a better value exchange. Interestingly, they spent a lot of time in the report talking about how they got companies to participate in the report. And there itself was a problem. I think I forget the number, but it's like maybe 20% of the companies who raised their hand could not get through the legal loopholes to actually participate, could not get across the log level data that they had to share to be able to participate. So that itself is telling, right? There's either a lack of trust or some sort of disarray internally, which is kind of what they keep pointing to. The key findings of the report were sevenfold. One, that there is massive information asymmetry in the industry. And we talked about this on our trust episode, where it's not like the information is not present. Publishers have a lot of data, but the ad spend that trickles its way from right to left is much smaller size of what actually starts out. And the information is kind of the reverse triangle, if we had to draw it that way. They get into this a little bit, and I'm eager to read the second part of the report. But the flip side of information asymmetry is also the fact that the way in which open web programmatic advertising is set up, not all agents are actually agents. Some of the agencies are actually what they call partners or principals. What that effectively means is, as an agency, you strike deals with 20 different publishers, but that's a 1 to 20 equation. You're not striking them specifically for an advertiser, which means you have no obligation, even when you strike those deals, to take that data back to your advertiser. And so, given this information asymmetry as an umbrella narrative, they are calling out to advertisers to pay more attention to data rights along with the expenditures that you make. Because it's one thing to focus on cost, focus on ROAS, and get your agency to get you either the best deal or the best return for your money. But if you don't go one step further and say, am I getting the data that I deserve for this expenditure? When your agent is actually not your agent. Your agency is not your agent. They are just a partner that's kind of striking their own contracts that don't extend their way to you as a buyer. You're still going to be stuck with information asymmetry and a lack of data access. Which brings me to another worry, which is, if log level data was so easily shared, do people know how to process it? And that's probably a different challenge. But I'm guessing we cross that bridge when we get there. The other thing they talked about is misaligned incentives. So there's an interesting stat that says advertisers tend to prioritize cost over value. And in the short term, that's okay. But in the long term, when you realize that not all impressions are the same, you're actually losing out. And they're calling for advertisers to say you need to maybe think about an 80-20 rule, where you deploy 80% of your spend to a smaller tranche of publishers and websites where you have better data rights, better control, and you pay more attention. The remaining 20% can go elsewhere. This stat was staggering to me, that the average campaign ran on 44,000 websites. And I was listening to a podcast this morning that broke down this study, where this guy said, can anybody name 40,000 websites?
And also, a large part of them are just made for advertising websites.
21%.
Yeah.
21% of impressions, translating to 15% of revenue, is all websites that are made for advertising. And it sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
These are effectively fraud, right? These are websites that actually are not focused on high quality content or high quality journalism or supporting minority owners.
But you find yourself on those websites a lot, because there will be those little outbrain taboola links at the bottom. Sunny Leon links or something about Kareena Kapoor or something else. And you're like, oh, what's happening here? And then boom, you're on this like retarded website which has a bunch of ads.
There's an interesting stat that they were talking about on the podcast. I missed it in the report, which said 21% of impressions are stemming from made for advertising websites. But if you break this down within the programmatic spend and say, where does this stack up in private marketplaces? It's still 15%. How does that happen? And obviously, all of this has a huge impact on any sustainability effort, right? Because you're
burning down servers.
Every ad call is inefficient and bloated. And they talked about this concept of an unknown delta, which I had not heard of this term before. I thought it was the same as ad tech tax, but it's not. Unknown delta is unknown, which they said was about 13%, but now it's come down to about 3%, only because of log level data sharing. So apparently, if you don't share it, you're still sitting at a 13-14% unknown delta.
So that's like 4. How many have you covered out of the 7?
7. Covered all 7. Because some of them are redundant. Because one is information asymmetry is a serious issue. 2 is data access is lacking.
Similar. Yeah. But we listened to Snowflake yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We attended a small meeting with them where they spoke about what they're doing and how their marketplace is and their entire journey. And I feel like because of all of this decentralization, the ability for you to collect data all over the place, the lack of legal maturity and the ability for you to process and compute data that you're getting from another source in a compliant manner, companies like Snowflake will start to proliferate, because you need people to sit on top of a cloud agnostic scenario where you're able to share this data for specific output and still be compliant and still get your outcomes. So that is an interesting place where all of this will move to. But programmatic advertising has such a lot of it's got so many things going for it. It's so easy to do, and you get overall you get some outcomes. We've heard some of our customers saying, "Where can I just dump all of this additional,
Unused.
reuse my
Yeah.
the fact that my fill rates are not that high, and from a premium perspective, how can I just sell it for cheap?" Which is maybe programmatic advertising 10 years ago in the US. But today it has become a way of transacting. And so those pipes have to mature, and there is compliance that's wrapped over it, and there is consumer choice, and there are business concerns and business needs, and this whole concept of interoperability, and the fact that the entire world is slowly but surely moving to a decentralized, fragmented way, which is the whole Web3 way. And so therefore, the ability for you to build and consume for that new future is something that you need to start for today. Cool. Speaking of the future, next week we have our retail media website. Webinar, sorry. Retail media webinar.
Which is not a made for advertising.
It's
webinar.
not a made for advertising website, guys. Sorry. But it's a webinar that we are hosting. We have Kishore Kumar from Big Basket, and we have Anurod Tak from Swiggy. They are both from the food space, I want to say, because one has groceries, one has Instamart in it, and the other one has got similar types of offerings out of inorganic acquisitions. I think they made a couple of acquisitions. But I think what I'm looking forward to, and I've said this as well, I'm pretty nervous about it, is because it is not a fully explored space in India. It's fully storied. It's got a lot of depth in the US, and we're talking about the fact that it's so vast in the US, right? You were saying that, what were you saying about Kroger? That
the story of retail media in the Indian context, I think we were talking to the Snowflake guys yesterday about this. It's so different from the US. A lot of the retail media and retail media network narrative right now is very US centric, because who are the top players? Amazon, Walmart, Kroger, Albertsons. I think there's something going on with the acquisition. But a lot of these stores are historically so deeply entrenched in the American household culture. Most American households for decades have been loyal to a specific chain. We shop at Walmart, we shop at Kroger, we shop at Target. And if you go into certain states of the US, there are local versions of this that don't exist in other states. We never had that in India, and maybe I will betray both of our ages right now, is growing up in Malleshwaram. I remember the first supermarket when it came out. The first supermarket was Food World on MG Road, and my family and I made a trip.
Yeah.
We made
a trip. Spencer's then, no?
Yeah, it was called Spencer's then. And then Spencer's opened a Food World, and then we used to shop at a local mom and pop store in my household. And one day we all decided we would do it. And it was a family trip to the supermarket. And I was designated like shopping cart pusher. And I was so kicked to see one in real life. Because predominantly, and I think India's until last year serviced by about 12 million mom and pop stores, which are now being aggregated. But you mentioned the fact that even those stores have very rich first-party data about their customers, right? But what this boils down to is, for me, the fabric of retail media and e-commerce marketplaces is so different in the US versus India. So I'm curious to talk to these guys and find out more about where they see the Indian story developing. Because we have definitely had this story where we don't have these decades-old chains of giant supermarkets, but we have digitized faster than probably any other country on the planet. So I'm very curious to know what that means. Like Avod is, are we going to overtake? Are we going to have a different clip? I'm very curious to understand their take on the Indian story when compared to, because I know they've probably deeply studied Instacart or Deliveroo or any of the other folks around the world. So it should be interesting.
Yep. So Anand is also on the panel with us, and we can expect a lot of conversation around retail media. I'm interested in how they operationalize everything, because that's always been my passion of trying to figure out how do you get this to run forward. So everybody who's listening to this podcast, if you're interested, please sign up. If you sign up, you'll also get the recording, which is in case you don't want to attend it live. You can or send in your questions if you want us to ask them something on your behalf.
Yep.
So we will see you all next week with the retail media webinar.
Yes.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you everybody here to setting it up. Gautam, Santosh, Meena. Thank you, Anand.